Story number 12, I had just watched an early episode of Criminal Minds where someone set houses on fire with people locked inside. For some reason, that episode really scared me. A night or two later, I suddenly woke up and couldn't stop thinking about it. I felt so uneasy that I got up to check the front door. Even though it was unlocked, I couldn't open it. It felt stuck. I got so scared that I woke up my husband. He's a big guy, but even he couldn't open it. I ended up climbing out the window so I could push the door from outside while he pulled from inside. That's the only way we got it open. After that, I didn't watch Criminal Minds again for a long time. Story number 13. I'm a paramedic, and around 3 a.m., one cold winter night, we got a call about an overdose in a rough neighborhood on the edge of our area. Sadly, the person had already passed when we arrived, and her dealer, or whoever it was, found her like that while dropping off some stuff. As we were packing up, this was a seriously run-down trailer. I heard a voice down the hallway say, "Lights?" I asked my partner if he said anything since it was just the two of us cleaning up, but he said no. I walked to the far end of the trailer where I heard the voice and shone my flashlight. I saw a reflection from the window. There was a small storage shed outside with a flickering light inside that caught my attention. So my partner and I went to check it out. We heard crying and noticed the door was locked with a padlock. We cut it open, and inside was a little girl, about 6 years old. She told us her mom locked her in there when she was angry. She said she got scared when she heard the sirens and didn't know what to do. To this day, I still don't know where the voice I heard came from, but I'll count that as a win. Story number 14. I was driving across the country and ended up in Boise. For some reason, I suddenly craved pancakes, so I put IHOP into Google Maps and followed the directions to a spot in the middle of town. When I walked in, the place was completely empty. I don't mean just no customers. I mean there wasn't a single person inside. No wait staff, no cooks, no customers, nobody. There was half-eaten food on every table. Bags and purses left in the booths. The TVs were all on. Burgers were still cooking on the grill, slowly burning. But no one was there, like everyone had disappeared all at once. I was so creeped out, I jumped back in my car and didn't stop until I reached the state line before finally getting something to eat. I still have no idea what happened that day. Story number 15. So this still baffles me, but when I was a kid, we had moved into a new house, and while the realtor was showing us around the house, I saw a lady sitting at a white dresser in a pink room. And she even waved at me, but when I asked my mom who that was, she just brushed me off because she was trying to listen to the realtor. The weird thing is that there were no rooms painted pink in the house, and my family just played it off, despite me being adamant of what I saw. Anyway, fast forward a few years, and I'm in high school at this point, and we start renovating the house, and while stripping the wallpaper in the master bedroom, we found out it was painted pink at some point. Still, low-key, freaks me out. Story number 16. One night, I had a dream that I was working out at my usual gym in Portland. In the dream, I was at my regular spot, exercising, when suddenly all the lights went out. Every TV screen shut off. I couldn't see anything, but it felt like smoke was filling the gym. I could hear people panicking and running toward the exit. It felt like maybe there was some kind of emergency or attack. I started running to the exit, but it became harder and harder to breathe. Just as I was about to lose consciousness from the smoke, I suddenly woke up. It was such an intense dream that it stayed with me for days. Then, about a week later, I was actually at the gym again, and suddenly the lights and TV screens went out, just like in my dream. It was such a strange moment that I thought I was dreaming again. I stood there frozen for a few seconds before realizing it was just a power outage because of a storm. The power came back on after about 5 minutes. I told one of the staff members nearby about my dream, and she just laughed politely, probably thinking I was crazy. Definitely one of the weirdest things I've experienced. Story number 17. My dad ran a small plant shop, so I used to stay behind the counter after school until closing time. One day, I saw a tall man dressed all in black, like wearing a long coat, walk past my dad and smile at me before going into a staff-only room. Even though I was just 7, I jumped up to stop him. The back room was full of new deliveries. I quickly turned the corner, but no one was there. There was no way he could have disappeared so fast. After the shop closed, I asked my dad to check the security cameras, but all it showed was me jumping up, running, and then running out of the camera's view. It was really strange, and after that, I never felt comfortable staying there alone again. Story number 18. One day, my husband and I were driving around our new neighborhood. We saw a group of bikers having a cookout by the side of the road. Suddenly, for some reason, I said, "People often judge bikers, but I bet if the house across the street caught on fire, these men would run inside to save the little old lady." I pointed to a house across the street. That was the first time I had ever driven down that street since we just moved in. My husband and I weren't even talking. We were just listening to music. Later that night, around 2 a.m., the very same house I pointed to caught fire. Sadly, an elderly woman living there died in the fire. That moment has stayed with me ever since. Story number 19. I have a very clear memory from when I was a child, standing at the Statue of Liberty with my dad carrying me on his shoulders. I remember looking out at the New York City skyline and feeling so small next to the huge buildings. I can even remember what we ate for lunch that day and the ferry ride we took to get there. For years, I would think about this memory and tell my family stories about that trip. But they always told me I never went to New York City as a kid. According to them, my first visit was when I was 23 years old. What's really strange is that when I finally did visit New York for real, at 23, everything came back to me. Exactly as I had remembered it from that childhood trip with my dad. It felt like my mind was unlocking a hidden memory, even though my family denies it ever happened. That memory has stayed with me ever since, and sometimes I wonder if it was a dream or something more mysterious. Story number 20. This happened just a few days ago, and honestly, I'm really hoping someone can explain a normal reason for what I experienced because it seems so strange. I recently got a second monitor since all my classes are online now, and I was rearranging things in my room. While moving my floor lamp, the base, the part with the cement, just fell out. It was weird because I never had that happen before. That lamp was a gift from my aunt, so I thought maybe it was just old or worn. Then I went to grab another floor lamp from my guest room. I've had this one since about 2007. The moment I stepped through the doorway into my room, the base of that lamp also dropped out completely. Thinking this was just a strange coincidence, I asked my significant other to lend me one of his lamps that he wasn't using. But guess what? When we brought it to my place, the exact same thing happened. The bottom of that lamp fell out as well. I can't figure out what's going on. Has anyone ever experienced something like this, or can explain why all these lamps are suddenly falling apart the moment I bring them into my room? It feels almost like a weird coincidence or some strange bad luck. Story number 21. When I was in primary school, probably in first or second grade, there was this weird tradition in the cafeteria. Every lunch, there were lots of cups filled with milk, and they came in different colors, red, green, and blue. But there was only one yellow cup each day. That yellow cup was super special. Everyone wanted it, and kids would actually fight over who got to drink from it. It was like the yellow cup was some kind of prize or treasure. This had been happening for years, and nobody knew why there was only one yellow cup. One night, I had a dream that the cafeteria finally got more yellow cups. It felt so real that I woke up thinking about it all day. Then, the very next day when I went to lunch, I couldn't believe my eyes. There were hundreds of yellow cups. Suddenly, everyone could have one, and there was no more fighting over it. It was such a strange and amazing moment, and I still remember it like it was magic. Story number 22. When I was a kid, I always slept with my bedroom door open. My cat loved to come curl up next to me at night, and I didn't want to shut her out. The layout of our hallway was circular. You could see the bathroom door and my parents' room from where I slept, even though it was usually pretty dark. I also didn't like total darkness, so I kept my bedroom lights dimmed, just enough to make out shapes. One night, I couldn't sleep. Not sure why. I just felt restless, so I called out for my mom, like kids do, and then I saw her. She was standing right at the edge of my doorway, slightly turned away, with her hand resting on her face and her hair hanging down. She wasn't looking at me, but I knew it was her. She'd gone to bed in this oversized purple t-shirt, and that's exactly what the figure was wearing. But here's the thing. She wasn't moving at all, just completely still, almost like a frozen statue. And I was 100% awake. I might have even been watching late-night Disney Channel reruns. It was around 3 a.m. I called out to her again. Nothing. Not even a flinch. And then, blink, she was gone. Like, just gone. Panic kicked in. I started yelling for real, freaking out. That's when I finally heard their bedroom door open and close, and my actual mom came rushing in, half asleep and worried. I think she ended up staying with me that night, or maybe I just stayed up with the TV on to keep my nerves in check. After that night, I never slept with my door open again. And to this day, I try not to stare too hard into dark corners. You never know what you might see. Story number 23. When I was around 10 years old, I had this little setup in my room, a radio on my nightstand, and one of those squishy beanbag chairs in the corner. It was my cozy little space, and I'd usually fall asleep to music playing quietly in the background. One night, as I was just starting to drift off, the radio suddenly started flipping through stations all on its own. Not just once or twice, it jumped between channels like someone was sitting there twisting the dial rapidly. I sat up, completely confused, staring at it like, what is going on? And then it got weirder. I suddenly heard the sound of my beanbag chair shifting, like the slow, creaky rustling it makes when someone settles into it. But no one was there. It wasn't just a little sound either. It was that unmistakable sinking noise you hear when someone actually sits down in it, like the beans inside were shifting under pressure. I was frozen. The radio quieted down, but I couldn't stop staring at that chair, half expecting to see it moving. To this day, I have no idea what caused any of it, but it scared the life out of me. After that, I pretty much avoided turning the radio on at night, and I definitely stopped trusting that beanbag chair. Story number 24. When I was a kid, my mom and I were stopped at a red light on a calm, sunny day. Everything seemed normal, until the car in front of us suddenly ran the red light while the cars from the other direction were already turning. In a split second, it was chaos. That car slammed into a vehicle pulling a trailer with a boat on it. The impact was so intense that the boat went flying off the trailer, and it was coming straight for us. Not just toward our car, right at our windshield. It was like watching a nightmare happen in slow motion. My mom screamed at me to duck, telling me to bend as far forward as I could so the boat wouldn't slice right through me. I'll never forget the look on her face or the sound of her voice. And then, just at the very last second, the boat did something no one expected. It veered sharply to the left. Instead of smashing through our windshield, it scraped along the side of our car and came to a stop. We sat there stunned. My heart was pounding. My mom was shaking. There was no wind. No reason for it to turn like that. It was like something, or someone, redirected it at the very last moment. Like an invisible hand reached down and pushed it away from us. It still gives me chills to think about it. We could have died or been seriously injured, but somehow we weren't. Story number 25. When my daughter was little, something strange would happen every time she got upset. Something in the kitchen would randomly break. And I don't mean once or twice. It happened so often and in such odd ways that it went way beyond coincidence. I clearly remember one particular morning early, maybe just after sunrise. We were in the kitchen, and she asked if she could have a slice of leftover cake from the night before. I told her no, and right away she got this look on her face. Small, fuming, trying not to cry. Right then, I heard a soft but sharp plink sound coming from the cupboard. I paused, opened it, and found the top plate in a neatly stacked pile had cracked in multiple places. No impact. No one touched it. Just cracked like a spider web for no reason at all. Things like that happened too often when she was emotional. Glasses would tip, bowls would chip, something would fall. Always timed perfectly with her little tantrums. It was like the kitchen itself was reacting to her mood. She grew out of it eventually. No more kitchen telekinesis after the toddler years. She's 24 now, and a completely calm and lovely adult. But every now and then, I'll bring it up just for fun. I like to remind her boyfriend, half-jokingly, if she ever gets really mad, maybe don't stand near the glassware. Story number 26. When I was younger, we lived in this huge, creaky, 110-year-old Victorian house. 5 floors if you counted the basement and attic. Gorgeous, but eerie in that something's watching you kind of way. Anyone who visited could tell something felt off, and it wasn't just a one-time thing. Weirdness was the norm. One time, I was home alone, organizing silverware in the kitchen. I dropped a fork. It hit the table like normal, then suddenly shot sideways, hard, and smacked against the wall like someone slapped it midair. It made 0 sense. A fork doesn't just launch itself 5 feet sideways off a flat drop. Even when my parents first bought the place, creepy stuff started immediately. One night, they were heading out and went floor by floor turning off lights. My mom did the top 2, my dad did the lower levels. They met in the middle, left, got to the car, and saw the 3rd floor light blazing. Even weirder, the blinds were now rolled up. No one else was in the house. We had a seesaw in the upstairs playroom. I'll never forget the day my mom flipped the light switch on and saw it violently rocking by itself like 2 invisible kids were going hard on it. Then there was the time I was in the basement grabbing something and felt a distinct hand brush down my back. I spun around, heart racing, nothing. I tried to play it off like maybe my shirt shifted weird, but as I climbed the stairs, I heard soft, eerie giggling behind me. Another day, I was just chilling on the couch when my dad suddenly shouted, "What the fuck? Watch out!" A big framed puzzle that had been hanging on the wall for years suddenly flew off and crashed onto me. My dad swore it didn't fall. It lifted itself and then came off the hook. The dogs definitely sensed stuff. We had 3. Luna, a massive Great Dane, Max the boxer, and Toby the yellow lab. Tough, confident dogs, but not one of them would go near the attic. They'd plant their feet and bark like crazy if you even tried to coax them upstairs. Our front entryway had 2 sets of heavy wooden doors. You'd walk through the front set into a little vestibule, then the second set into the house. That second set had 3 huge deadbolts, 2 sunk into the floor, and a 3rd that locked the doors together. It could only be locked from the inside, and it took serious force to do it. We never locked it. One day we came home and the inner doors were bolted tight. All 3 locks from the inside. My mom completely panicked. She grabbed us and ran to a payphone to call the cops because, logically, someone had to still be in the house. 3 police cars showed up. They used her key to unlock the doors, swept the place, even checked the crawl space. Nothing, not a single thing out of place, except for her gold necklace, just sitting untouched on the dining table. All the windows were locked from the inside. That night, my uncle, a cop, and a family friend, also law enforcement, stayed over. Everyone went to bed. The next morning, my uncle tried to leave, and the doors were bolted shut again. We ripped those locks out that same day. Another night, Luna was lying next to me while I was watching cartoons. Out of nowhere, she jumped up and backed into me, growling, ears pinned, eyes fixed on the stairs. Max and Toby came flying in, immediately on alert, ears down, fur raised. Max started creeping toward the staircase, his body tense. Then he did this sudden lunge, snapping at empty air like he was biting something we couldn't see. 5 seconds later, we all heard it. The heavy sound of footsteps sprinting, from the first floor landing to the second, then up to the third. I was frozen, called my mom in a panic. While I was still on the phone, this deep, bone-chilling wail echoed from the third floor. Not a noise, not creaking, an actual wail. Years later, my parents were divorced, and I was staying with my dad for the weekend. We cleaned out the third floor and packed up a bunch of old toys into a big toy chest, including a tambourine from one of those toddler music sets. That night, we were brushing our teeth, and I started hearing a strange sound. Chica, chica, chick. Chica, chica, chick. I paused, turned off the water. My dad stopped too. We listened. There it was again. Dad, I whispered, I think that's the tambourine. We ran upstairs. The toy chest we just packed, wide open, and sitting right in the middle of the floor was that tambourine, rocking slightly like it had just been dropped. To this day, I still get chills thinking about that house. It didn't need shadows or jump scares. It just was haunted in a very real, very quiet kind of way. Subscribe for more stories like this.